Okay, one of my favorite topics is to talk about how to live a creative life. Because just like Navy SEALs talk about the fact that what they do is a way of life, the same occurs for having a creative lifestyle and to live a creative life. And I really enjoy creating, and if you're on the other side of the video, you do too. But some of the things that you're thinking about is, how do I make it sustainable? How do I do this? And one of the scariest things you can have is, well, what if I lose my creativity? Well, I'll tell you, in this video, we're breaking down how you can live a creative life. Going through a couple of these tips. One, write or create every single day. Make it non-negotiable. For me, I love to write every single day. In fact, a lot of it is I treat it like a scientific log or a scientific journal. My background, I trained as a biologist, biopsych, and there was a lot of time where we're collecting data. So every day I journal. I highly recommend the Day One Journal app right here. And the beauty behind something like that is you can use it just to take notes. That is a sense of creation. Because the second tip is don't start from scratch. The thing is we have many creative ideas throughout the day. You might just go, what if that was easier? Why is this so hard? That's what you're looking for. Now you just write it down, right? I love how Sarah Blakely talks about the fact that many of us, every single one of us, she believes is given $1 million idea. I believe the same thing. I believe all of us have these incredible ideas that come in and we don't write them down. So that idea of creating every day and then writing them down, capturing those ideas, allows you to not start from scratch. Where then you could do the next thing, which is tip number 3, make it easy for you to create. If it's hard for you to get behind a camera, right, do a podcast, it's not sustainable. The whole idea of a creative life is it's just built into your everyday. Think of people who it's easy for them to work out. They've built a lifestyle around it. It's easy. They have their gym bag ready to go. They know where it is. They know what gym they're going to. They know how to get there. They know the fastest routes. It's super simple. It's super easy. You want to do the same. A perfect example of how to live a creative life in my life is my podcast. I made it super simple. I made it super easy, where I pull out my phone right here, and with that, I have an incredible podcasting app that I'm able to hop right on, and I'm able to record right from my phone. I have a microphone that's in my backpack, I have my stand, and if there's an idea in a quiet space, I'm ready to rock and roll. If there isn't a quiet space, what I'll do is I'll take a voice note, or I love this app called otter.ai. I'll put in the link below so you can just check it out, or I'll leave a link below so you can check it out. But what it allows me to do is anytime I have that idea, it's easy for me to put it right on my phone. And then from there, I can move forward. And then the next thing about living a creative life, right? Or tip number 4 is take the time to read from all different disciplines. Don't waste your time just reading about one discipline. Yeah, that's important, but there's a lot of great literature that shows you can bring ideas from different areas together. The academic term for that is bisociation, which is really fancy. I really like the idea of idea sex. Sorry, Mom, right? But it's this idea that you're bringing different ideas from different backgrounds together. Great book on this is The Medici Effect by Franz Johansson, I believe. And he talks about the idea of bringing these disparate connections together. A perfect example of this is there was a architectural tower that needed to be built in the hot sun in a southern country in Africa. And they looked at termite hills in terms of how termites will actually carve vents, and it's a moving system for air conditioning. The tower did the same thing, where they had a moving system of panels so it could use cooling without using exorbitant amounts of air conditioning. That is cross-pollination, that's bisociation, that's idea sex. So have idea sex. The next tip to live a creative life is to understand that it is a long-term process. One of the most impactful creative stories I've ever heard is Neil Gaiman talking about the Graveyard Book. He was talking about the fact, shout out to Masterclass, it was in his Masterclass, absolutely incredible. He was talking about the fact that it took him years to write the Graveyard Book, meaning he was roughly in his mid-20s when he first got the idea because he was watching his son ride his bicycle through a cemetery. And the idea came to him of, what if I did the Jungle Book, but instead of being a setting in the jungle, it was set in a graveyard. But the real powerful part of the story, and listen to this now, was he said, wow, this idea is so good that I need to sit it on the shelf. And so he takes this idea, he shelves it, and roughly 20 years later, he gets back to it, and you have the Graveyard Book, which is, a bestseller. It just has won an incredible amount of awards. Now, the lesson there that you could take away is Neil knew that he could set that down because his skills weren't good enough to get there. He was embracing his creative life. He was saying, you know what, I have confidence that I am going to get to that, and I'm willing to work my skills into that. For you, do the same thing. You might have projects that you will have to table, right? Pun intended. You might have to put away on that shelf, just like Neil, knowing that you're going to come back to it. Well, the beautiful thing about that is then you will get a chance to build into a creative lifestyle. It's just like having an aspiration of running a marathon or a triathlon or getting a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or getting your PhD, whatever the case may be. It's that. It's you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm willing to build into it. I'm willing to get there. And so that can make your life a lot easier. So going through those tips and use them to build your creative life day by day. Creativity is a lifestyle choice. It's how you live. It's a way of life, and it will allow you to create incredible things. Because in the era of artificial intelligence, right, almost everything's becoming a commodity through automation or just will be flat out automated. The one thing that will stand out as one of those powerful skills is creativity. The sooner you develop it and build it into your life as an everyday, it could be looking at something poetic, which by the way is a bonus tip. Look at things from a poetic lens. Read poetry. I've been reading a lot of Rumi, and it is spectacular. If you want to know more about great poetry, every single podcast I start off with a little poem. I will put a link down below, but the reason why I do it is because it trains me. Poets have these incredible abilities. Rumi especially, to be able to take something, look at what we might pass every day. For him, it could be a teacup. And we look at that and we're just like, oh, it's a teacup, not a big deal, right? But for him, it's a metaphor for we are all teacups drifting through the ocean that is life. And we are all going to get wet because life is going to come in. But the question is how do we mold and how do we move through that? How powerful is that? That's just a beautiful image that clicks in. Same for you. Find the poetry in your everyday life and you will naturally be more creative. It could be looking at your eyes, it's cliche of your own eyes in a mirror, or the eyes of your significant other. It could be looking at just the ground. If you just look at how the gravel reflects, and it's not the idea of stop and smell the roses, although it's there. It's this idea of you start paying attention to things that other people miss. And the business perspective, which is valuable for those of you who want to be an investor, who want to really find incredible opportunities, guess what? When you're searching for beauty, when you're searching for those things that are poetic, you notice things that other people don't notice. And that allows you to, hey, make great income. And then the other piece of it is you're constantly doing it because you built it as a habit into your day-to-day creative life. So these are the tips on how to live a creative life. You can implement them right now. In fact, I want you to, down below, leave a comment of one of these tips and going, hey, I'm going to use this today. Tell me how you're going to use one of these tips to live a more creative life. I'm excited.